We're going to start with President George Washington. He was president from 1789 to 1797. He was not in a party, and some events were the first national bank, which was proposed by Hamilton's financial plan, the proclamation neutrality when the British and French were fighting because of the French Revolution, the Citizen Genet affair, the Whiskey Rebellion, which was a result of the taxes from Hamilton's financial plan, and it was shut down, it was put down very quickly. Jay's Treaty, which was unpopular, and his farewell address, which warned about getting involved in foreign affairs and forming political parties. John Adams was the next president from 1797 to 1801. He was a Federalist, and some events were the XYZ affair, which was when the Americans wanted to talk to the French. The French required a bribe, which made the Americans extremely mad. There's also the Alien and Sedition Acts that Adams proposed, that Adams passed, and it made it harder for others to become citizens. And the Kentucky Resolutions was a response which said that they could nullify unfair laws. There's also the quasi-war with France. Thomas Jefferson was the president from 1801 to 1809. He was a Democratic Republican. During some events were the war with Tripoli, the court case Marbury versus Madison under John Marshall, the Louisiana Purchase, where they got a ton of land and led to the Lewis and Clark expedition, the Embargo Act, which was when America was having some shipping problems. The British and French were impressing the ships, so they did the Embargo Act to stop trading with them, but actually hurt American economy a lot. And the Hamilton and Burr duel, leading to Hamilton dying. The fourth president is James Madison from 1809 to 1817. He was also a Democratic Republican. Some court cases under John Marshall was Fletcher versus Peck. And there's the Battle of Tippecanoe, where General William Henry Harrison, who will end up becoming president for a bit, won against the Native Americans. There was the Makin's Bill No. 2 and Non-Intercourse Act to try to limit trading and trying to deal with the impressment. And then the War of 1812 with the British, because of all the impressments and some other events, which some battles were, one battle was the Battle of New Orleans, which made Andrew Jackson very popular. And they won, and they signed the Treaty of Ghent. But before the news that the Americans won, the Federalists met at the Hartford Convention, and they decided that some radicals said they would secede because they did not like the War of 1812, and this made the Federalists seem very unpatriotic because they won, and led to the Federalists' decline. James Monroe was the fifth president from 1817 to 1825. He was also a Democratic Republican. It was known as the Era of Good Feelings because there was only one political party, the Democratic Republican. There's the Rush-Bag Agreement with Britain to withdraw the military. There's the Panic of 1819, so even though it was known as the Era of Good Feelings, there was still a really bad panic. There's McCulloch versus Maryland, which was a Supreme Court case under John Marshall. The Missouri Compromise dealt with slavery, and the Monroe Doctrine, which told the other countries that to not mess with the Western Hemisphere, like Latin America. The sixth president was John Q. Adams from 1825 to 1829, and he was also Democratic Republican. During his time, the Erie Canal was completed, and there's the very unpopular tariff known as Tariff of Abominations. The seventh president was Andrew Jackson from 1829 to 1837. He was a Democrat. He supported the Indian Removal Act, which removed many Native Americans from their home territory and forced them to go on a real long trail. And the Cherokees were known for the Trail of Tears, which was extremely harsh and many. There was the Peggy Aiden affair, which made Jackson not like Calhoun. There was the bank war between Jackson, who wanted pet banks, and the National Bank, which was controlled by Nicholas Biddle. The nullification crisis, which Calhoun proposed, and the Species Circular, which said that only gold and silver could be used to buy land. The eighth president was Martin Van Buren from 1837 to 1841. There was a panic of 1837, and his response to that was the Independent Treasury Act, which probably made the panic worse. And the Arctic War ended, and the Armistead, which was a ship that had escaped slaves who were trying to escape, was landed in America, and America was thinking what to do with the ship. William Henry Harrison was president for a very short amount of time in 1841. He was a Whig, and he died of pneumonia. And for his campaign against Martin Van Buren, he used the log cabin campaign, showing him as like a commoner that commoners could relate to, living in a log cabin, while Martin Van Buren was using gold plates. The 10th president was John Tyler from 1841 to 1845. He was a Whig, but he was more of a Democrat in many ways. A court case was Commonwealth versus Hunt. He was kicked out of the Whig Party because a lot of his actions were less Whig and more Democrat. James K. Polk is the 11th president from 1845 to 1849 and was a Democrat. During this time, there was the Irish potato famine, which led to a lot of Irish immigrating to America, which helped with the factories. And there were a lot of German immigrants too. There was Manifest Destiny, which is the idea that Americans are the superior race and it's their manifest destiny to take more land. The Mexican War was fought and America won, and the treaty was the Treaty of Hidalgo, Guadalupe. Texas was annexed. There was the California Gold Rush and the Oregon Treaty. The 12th president was Zachary Taylor, 1849 to 1850, and was a Whig who died. And there's the Compromise of 1850 proposed by Henry Clay. Something that will help you remember is there's only two Whig presidents, Henry Harrison and Zachary Taylor, and they both died. And then after Taylor died, Millard Fillmore became president from 50 to 53. He was a Whig. And the Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe was written then, and Moby Dick was also written then. Franklin Pierce was president from 1853 to 1857 and was a Democrat. There was the Gadsden Purchase, Bleeding Kansas, the Kansas-Nebraska Act, the formation of the Republican Party, Austin Manifesto, which was when Pierce threatened to take Cuba by force, the Sumner Brooks Affair, when Brooks caned Charles Sumner, and John Brown's raid at Potawatomi Creek, which was part of Bleeding Kansas, where the anti-slavery and slavery people and pro-slavery were fighting on whether Kansas should be free or a slave state. James Buchanan was the 15th president, and there's a Dred Scott decision, Supreme Court case that said blacks aren't citizens, and the Missouri Compromise is unconstitutional. The Lincoln-Douglas debates, Kansas votes for constitutions, Harper's Ferry raid, which also involved John Brown.